Actually, guys, can you give me 1 minute? Can I take that call?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Mike and I are ready to do this podcast with Gerald, and he walks away. Too big, too important for talking to Mike and I. I get it. It's good to be the Gerald, I guess, but
All right, sorry about that.
no problem. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Squat Cobbler. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything.
And before we get started, just want to, as we've gotten better at in all these podcasts, please be sure to like and subscribe either to our YouTube channel, on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever your platform of choice is. We would greatly appreciate it and love to hear from you too if there's content you'd like to see us cover. We are going to continue. Last week, we had a chance to kind of get back to the playlist review, where it's kind of the prisoner exchange smorgasbord, where Mike and I provide each other 6 different songs that we think the person either may not be familiar with or is familiar with, and we're interested in getting a read on them, on what they think about it. We covered Mike's last week, and so it's my round this time. And before I get started, Mike, any announcements, anything that you want to unburden yourself with before we get started?
No, nothing at all, sir. I am proud of us for this far into the show, getting the basic competencies of telling people to like and subscribe sort of down.
Got that, actually talked about what we're going to talk about on the podcast. All these were like big steps for us.
By like 300 episodes, we'll really have this thing a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, muscle memory will kick in eventually, I guess. But all right, well, I think we're just going to get charging right through this. So I gave Mike 6 songs to react to, and we're going to start off with one, and I'll be asking you this question on all of them, Mike. Were you familiar with this first song? This first song is by Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones, called Je suis un rockstar.
No,
Yeah.
I was not familiar with this song. I knew who Bill Wyman was, and I knew going into it based on my limited experience with solo or side projects of Rolling Stones members to not expect something that sounded like the Rolling Stones. I don't know if you've ever heard Mick Jagger's score that he did for Lucifer Rising.
I have not.
Yeah. Or I'm sorry, not Lucifer Rising. He did Invocation of My Demon Brother. Bobby Beausoleil did Lucifer Rising. Same filmmaker. That's where I got them confused. Okay. Both Kenneth Anger films. But he did a score for Invocation of My Demon Brother. Yeah.
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 So this would
not Rolling Stones. I'll say that. So going into it, I expected it to not sound like the Rolling Stones. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew it wasn't going to be the Stones.
Yeah, and it sure doesn't sound like the Stones at all. It's a kind of Euro poppy. Found it really kind of charming and interesting. You know, Bill's not necessarily the world's greatest vocalist. The kind of the framing of the song and the way it's kind of set up, it allows him to, it's not really spoken, but he's also not doing Freddie Mercury like range shifts of things throughout, much like Randy Newman, where Randy Newman in many of his songs there's a narrator, there's the person singing the song is a character and delivering the information. That's kind of what you see on Rockstar is, but you know, Bill's not straying a lot from who Bill is. He is a rock star, so you know, creatively he's not stretching too much. And well, I gotta just say, this song has not aged well. Because we get about 2/3 of the way through there, and it's basically a song about, hey, I'm a rock star, and he comes across a young lady, emphasis on young, that he begins to say, hey, why don't you come hang with me? We'll fly, we'll go these places, and they run into problems where he can't do it, and so eventually they're gonna have to take a hovercraft to get to where they're gonna go next. And he rolls out and I had forgotten about this until I re-listened to it prior to including a playlist, to say, you know, he's like, well, we'll tell them that I'm your father and you're my daughter. And I was like, oh, oh, not good, Bill. This is maybe not such a good idea anymore. But if you can, and I don't really feel there's this kind of smirk on his face when he's saying it that makes it even worse. But overall,
like he's done that before.
Yeah, like I'm familiar. This works for me. It's worked before.
I've pulled it off. Trust me.
Yeah, and so that was a little, that's not so great. But it is, I think, kind of a catchy little number and fun and not something you would expect.
Well, obviously I was deeply offended. Like Kelly said, he proposed something that was a song that was both sexually graphic and demeaning to women. So obviously deeply offended.
Yep, that's the theme of the whole playlist. That's the way it goes.
So it is funny because obviously, I knew listening to it, I was like, it didn't age well. And that was probably something that at the time, a lot of, his fans probably thought was funny and didn't think in the context that we have now, never would have thought something like that. So it really is like a product of its time versus us being a product of our times now listening to it. How that, ages with it. Musically, like I said, I expected it to not be like the Stones. I didn't know what to expect, but it was a fun kind of pop song. You hit on something that I think is important. He doesn't have much of a range, but he doesn't try to, and that definitely works in his favor. A lot of times when not the singer of the band does a solo project and they try and sing, and that rarely works out. There's a reason they're not the singer of the band that they're in. So I like that he didn't try and do anything crazy with it. Like he just found something that worked for him, and he's able to kind of pull that off really well. I'm not comparing them, but I like it when singers kind of know what their limitations are. I made this comparison a lot with people. Like I always say, I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan, so I always tell people to kind of like take Ozzy Osbourne. If you take their two most famous singers, Ozzy and Dio had like this huge range, and people will sit and try and argue with you that, Ozzy was better. No, from a technical standpoint, not at all. Not even close. Not even sort of close. I love Ozzy. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of the stuff that he did. What Ozzy did that was great, though, was he knew he had a limited range. He works within that small range really, really well. Like he learned how to use what he had to the best of his possible abilities and made an entire very lengthy career out of that. So I feel like this is a guy who, I don't know how many solo records he may have had before this, but like knows where his strengths and limitations are and used it to his advantage in this song. And I can appreciate that. As far as the daughter comment in there, didn't age well, I guess. It's funny because right now, so at the time that we're recording this, we are in the winter season. There is a song that over the past few years, really since I've been a kid, has been getting some moderate blowback, but in the past couple years, in the wake of Me Too and things like that, Baby It's Cold Outside has become a very not popular song, or a touchy subject kind of song. And recently, for this holiday season, John Legend has recorded a cover of it, updating the lyrics to be sensitive to the Me Too era that we're in now. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because what's funny to me about the whole thing related to that song, and again, this song, the Wyman song, I think is a little bit different because I think it's very clear what all this is about. What's funny to me is people on both sides of the Baby It's Cold Outside debate, which in the minds of people is a song that is similarly not aged well. The problem with both sides is you're both wrong about what that song's about. If you go and read up on the history of the song and how that song originated, it is not a Christmas song. It is a song that was written for an award show by the host of the award show, and it relates to the award show. So it is a song about closing down an award show. It is not about what you think it's about. Either side is wrong. The difference here is I'm pretty sure there was no other intention in the Wyman song. Pretty sure. I don't want to speak for him.
No.
But no, I feel like it's pretty clear where he was going, but you never know, because Baby It's Cold Outside is not about Christmas. It's not about a guy trying to talk a woman into staying. It's literally about an award show.
And as recent listeners of Squat Cobbler know, we're not afraid to take on the issues these days and share our deep thoughts on such things. But I would argue that there is a power balance in Baby It's Cold Outside, that there's a debate going on, but no one has got a superior point of view on it. So it is like, yeah, they go back and forth, and so it's not an imbalance process. Bill's song, I think it's like, right, here's what we're going to do. just this will be the plan, and it's creepy, and I think it's funny, and it, Bill. I'm speaking as Bill, not Kelly in this case, but just to clarify, just to clarify,
that sounded like Kelly.
It sounded like Kelly, but no, it was Bill. I always just found it a really intriguing. Didn't expect it. Didn't really have any idea what I would hear from Bill Wyman if he did a solo song. When he did this one, it's like, well, I didn't expect that, and it's just, I said, it's catchy. It's kind of poppy, very different. A lot of French in it. That wonderful low quality 1980s video kind of thing where it's like, we're kind of shooting a video that basically mimics every part of the song directly. There's like no creative stuff to it, but it's all right. So
we're really going to hear something that's not what you expect. We should include a link to Mick Jagger's "Invocation, My Demon Brother."
Okay, we can absolutely do that. We will. I'll make sure.
You're welcome. /sorry in advance.
Yep. So next, Run Away, I've got to assume you're familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. So if AC/DC and Joe Walsh were merged, you'd get Slade, is my opinion. And
for a second I thought you were going to say Quiet Riot, but
no, because there's a clear Joe Walsh flavor to the lead singer of Slade, in my opinion. This is a driving song. The rolling drums at the beginning, this kind of pickup of the guitars, kind of slowly building to eventually you get to a very kind of AC/DC like vocal, Brian Johnson like vocal to it. It just cranks through, and then all of a sudden we'll come into a part where it'll stop, and you get almost this kind of musical break that's completely not guitar driven. I mean, it's guitars, but it's not that kind of driving guitar stuff. And then it returns back. They put it back to 11. They get cranking again. The video for this is a must-see. You get to see kind of like, so if you're watching The Mandalorian, you get to see Baby Yoda. You watch the Slade video, you get to see Baby Slash. So there's this guy with a top hat who's like, oh, it's like a little version of Slash. And he's there. He's a good guitarist. It's really, really cool. Remains the most charming to me about this video is that somehow this lead singer felt the key thing to do at one part of, as some of the music is playing, is to take his tongue and stick it into his cheek and puff it out on one side and then do it on the other side and go back and forth. And he thought that'll be cool for the video. And I just loved it. I just thought it was just obviously unbridled. I'm just having fun. Here we go. And it's a song that brings me joy. I really, really love it. I think it's a good driving song. It's just a fun listen.
Cocaine. So my introduction to Slade was Quiet Riot, as I'm sure some other people's it was as well. So Quiet Riot got famous for covering a Slade song, "Come On Feel the Noise," which became their biggest hit. And then they tried to recreate that by covering other Slade songs instead of trying to write hits on their own. So it was through Quiet Riot that I was introduced to the music of Slade. So I am not super familiar with their catalog or anything like that, but I, in my mind, have always kind of associated them with AC/DC. Like that was the association that I've always made, that sort of same approach to the music.
I think Blue Oyster Cult in the past has been depicted as, thinking man's heavy metal. Slade, AC/DC is just non-thinking man's good music. And so I just do it. It's a fun song. We're going to crank right into the next song. So I'm feeling confident that this is not one you'd heard before. 16 Tons of Monkeys by Tony O'Kay.
I wish I could say this is one of my favorite songs like ever prior to this list, just so I could be like, see, I knew it. But no, I'd never heard of this before.
But now that you've listened to it, you say, I have a new favorite song. Because this, to me, is big Tonio fan. Folks who listen to the show know that I am. This is later Tonio. It's off the Yugoslavia album, which was pretty late in his career when he was still doing stuff as Tony O'Kay. It brings a lot of he has a very unique delivery style. Again, maybe not all the range of folks, but he does. It's a very distinct and entertaining delivery. And this has got this kind of deserty guitar stuff going on, heavy drums running through it. Unfortunately, going back to kind of the Bill Wyman thing, although significantly less creepy in this case, there's Tonio kind of delivers, he's been all around the world. He's been doing this. I've been watching all the girls. I'm a girl watcher, and just kind of runs in there, and you get this kind of riff and motif. It's a kind of serpentine song a little bit. Good rock, fun guitar for me, and just a nice, strong song.
Totally agree. I'd never heard of the song. My introduction to Tonio stuff is through Kelly and his recommendations. So there's still a lot out there that I haven't heard yet. I expect it to like it based on the fact that I've pretty much enjoyed everything that I have listened to now of his, and this didn't disappoint. I didn't know what to expect necessarily going into it because I do feel like he has some diversity in his sound, but really enjoyed it.
You know, if you go back to America and Life in the Food Chain, where it's a little more frenetic and driving, this still has a lot of power to it, but it kind of lopes along in a fun way, but just kind of a little less adrenaline, but still super good. So I don't think you and I have in any of these playlists included something that was actually a kind of a hit. And so this was a departure here because the next song is by XTC, another favorite band of mine, called Dear God, which is probably, I don't really feel like I need to ask you if you've heard that because it had good playtime. But I was just kind of, as I was building this list, going like, so what are some of the songs that just for various reasons I just really, really enjoy? And Dear God has always been both the video, which is amazing, and just the delivery of it is great, where it just feels very kind of heartfelt and kind of gets into your face about I think you're really hearing what Andy Partridge feels about religion and God and all those things. And he's just kind of, in the lyrics, he talks about my heart, my heart's on my sleeve on this. I think that's not only a lyric, but an actual depiction of he's kind of laying it out for everybody about here's where I'm at and here's why I'm at where I'm at. Just this process around in the song of Dear God, where he's talking about, boy, you'd really be surprised what people are doing in your name based on this book. I don't think you'd necessarily be real happy. I enjoy this song quite a bit. I think it's a really great piece of music. It's to me, one of XTC's best songs.
I'm not super familiar with XTC's work in general. This song, though, I'm very familiar with. This was a big song. I've heard it plenty of times. Always been a fan of it from the first time that I heard it. Really enjoyed it. There's also, I want to note, and this kind of came up before when we were talking about The Clash, how there was a bizarre Clash cover by Cypress Hill. There's a bizarre cover of this song by Shooty's Groove, who are a rap rock band who changed some of the lyrics, but took the bulk of the song, took the music, the chorus, and just changed some of the lyrics in the verses and some of the delivery of the verses. Odd cover, not a bad cover, but like a strange cover of it that I think's worth noting. But just always been a fan of this song. And, since you brought it up, what are your thoughts on religion, Kelly?
We'll save that for a future podcast.
Darn it. Thought I'd get it out of him.
I do think Mr. Partridge makes a pretty good point where he says, so, hey, here's this book. These crazy humans wrote it. You should take a look. That spoke to me a little bit to kind of say, yeah, this is God talking. But actually it was somebody who wrote it. So I thought that was interesting. But that's about as far as I'm going to go today on that. But
you heard it here first from Atheist Kelly Toole.
There you go. So we're going to move right along. So
now you're going to ask me my thoughts on religion? I'm hurt.
Mike, would you like to share with the squatties any thoughts on religion?
I mean, I'm a minister, so I feel like that says it all.
Yeah, so I'm sorry if I offended you by the inclusion of this song. So we will move on to, I have gone through recently a Devo renaissance. Devo's another favorite band of mine, but recently I've just kind of come back and said, man, I like them even more than I thought I liked them. And I go back to a bunch of stuff, and there's just so much of their catalog that I really find remarkably enjoyable. I don't know if I had forgotten or I didn't have full knowledge of it, but they're from Ohio. They were at Kent State as students when students were killed at Kent State, and that was actually some of the catalyst, because they basically shut the university down. That was the catalyst for them to start to get together and come up with this idea of de-evolution. Current day Devo's like, see, look what's happening. You remember we were talking to you about de-evolution? There you go. It's happening. I had kind of forgotten how much I truly, a lot of folks sometimes depict them more as a gimmick band and all that, and certainly there's some very affected ways that they perform and deliver certain stuff, but then you get something like this. And the song I included for Mike on this playlist was Devo's It Takes a Worried Man, which has everything that a great Devo song should have in it. It's got a very strange dance cadence of the lead singer, which is a kind of consistent thing that I think any of the squatties can learn by watching. I know I have the Mothersburg dance that he does kind of at the beginning of It Takes a Worried Man. But I love this song. It is the true Mothersburg kind of delivery. It is super strong. It's just a fantastic piece of music, in my opinion. For Mike, it drops an F-bomb, so I figured that would make him happy. And as I've watched concert versions of that, they will tend to on occasion tone it down to a different approach. But it's a super fun song. The video, as all Devo videos are, is a very intriguing thing to watch. You know, it takes a worried man to sing a worried song. I may be worried now, but I won't be worried long. It's just great stuff. And it's to me my favorite song of this whole, and I love all these songs, but this is the one that stands above it for all. So I really don't know where you're at on Devo, so it'd be interested in your thoughts.
Devo's very longtime drummer, Josh Freese, posts pictures of himself eating food in the bathrooms of airplanes. It is horrifying to me.
Yeah, you shared that tidbit before.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge germaphobe or anything like that, but like it is near panic attack status for him when I'm scrolling through my news feed and those things pop up. So when we went to Central America, I did go into the bathroom with the peanuts from the airplane, take a picture and send it to him, which he appreciated. And that's Devo. No, I'm a Devo fan, but I'm not super well versed in their music. Like my familiarity with Josh is from his other stuff that he had done, specifically playing for a while with Guns N' Roses, who we're friends with. I'm familiar with him from other things, but he's been in Devo for a very long time. I'm mostly familiar with their more known catalog, and really like beyond like Whip It and the bigger songs, what got me initially checking anything else out was Psychotica's cover of Freedom of Choice. And that got me checking more Devo stuff out. I'm not super familiar with their catalog. They're not in the way that Kelly is. So this is a song, I may have heard it before, but this would probably be the first time I really listened to it, and I really enjoyed it. Please stop eating in bathrooms.
Yeah, none of that is present on the video. So there's no indication of food being there. Although Airborne Fecal Matter would be a great band name, by the way. So we've got that.
I'll only do that if Josh is the drummer of that band.
That would clearly he would clearly have to be the drummer of the band.
I feel like he couldn't even say no. Like that's just
it's like, yeah, this is my thing. All right.
I mean, off of the sinks in the back of the toilet, and it's just awful.
It's wrong. I would agree that's wrong. So we'll wrap up the list with a couple of my favorites on it. I'm Flash, which goes back to there was this album put together of kind of a rock opera around Flash and the Space Pirates, and Alice Cooper played the lead role of Flash and sang the Space Pirates song. And so this is kind of the big introductory thing to kind of set the whole thing up. So you get Alice in all of his glory singing about being Flash, and also secured for this album was John Entwistle, whose bass skills are present all the way through the album. And he does kind of a Elvis-like delivery of a song as well towards the end. So he takes lead vocal duties on a song later in the song cycle. But I'm Flash is, just kind of tailor-made for Alice in terms of delivery of the vocals. It's kind of arrogant, troublemaking kind of guy. It's Alice in all his glory singing that. And then so you take Alice Cooper and you take John Entwistle bass skills, and you get a pretty fun song, in my opinion.
So I kind of knew that this existed, but it never really sought out listening to any of it or checking any of this stuff out. So this is the first time, maybe I've heard something before, but this is really the first time that I sat down and listened to something that was related to this, and I did enjoy it. So I'm probably going to go check out more.
Yeah, it's a product of its time. But the two songs that Alice takes lead vocal duties on, I'm Flash and Space Pirates, are good. And actually Keith Moon is also on Space Pirates being piratey, which is a good thing for Keith Moon to do. So tangent, I will officially declare it a tangent too. Are you familiar with the movie Yellowbeard?
Yes.
So Graham Chapman from Monty Python, and there are a lot of Pythons in Yellowbeard. Graham Chapman played the lead role of Yellowbeard in the movie, but originally that was a role being written for Keith Moon, but Keith kind of died, so it didn't work out so well. But he was originally going to
just do anything to get out of work.
That's right. That you do what you got to do. But
ask his guitar player in that band; he'll tell you who was really running the show.
That's right. He's glad. Yeah. And then Pete Townsend went, "Yay, he's dead." So.
Yellowbeard was so much better now.
That's right. Yeah, and Mike and I were talking offline. We recently, shared in our hard-hitting issues-based podcast things around Pete and some of his comments he made about past band members who had passed away. Then he kind of tried to backtrack on that a little bit. using it's my idiosyncratic English humor type of thing. But apparently he's back at it and now talking about how he doesn't really like to play or perform anymore as they get ready to tour to support their new album that he said is played by not a band. So
certainly not one he respects.
That's right. So we're not going to have Pete in the Squat Cobbler documentary. It'll
I don't care how much he begs.
That's right.
We'll throw Iggy Pop a bone. But
that's right. But he's in. He doesn't know he's in yet, but he's in. And I do think Iggy will be a fantastic ally in our war on Hanson, because I don't think we've mentioned lately, we're after Hanson, we're calling him out, we don't like him. And there's no particular reason why, but we don't. Iggy Pop's with us. Eventually we'll tell him if he listens to us. So there's that. Okay, well that's another playlist knocked off.
Just breezing through them.
Just cranking along. Cool. Well, we will be back. Who knows what the next episode will bring? But the way you can find out is if you like and subscribe on the channel of choice, then you can kind of hear a little more of the fascinating insights you get from Mike and I, and less Bill Wyman in the future. So on that note, I have to say thanks.
Look how good we are at that now.
That's right. We're hitting it. Competency is a goal. So we'll keep driving towards that. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Ew.